Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Drooks Milan Unboxing. Sunday in Melbourne, Australia at the Marvel Stadium, the lightweight championship of the world is on the line when George Kambosos Jr., the champ, is going to be having a big homecoming in front of his partisan supporters. And he has not chosen the traditional easy first title defense to do this. He has chosen one of the top elite guys in the lightweight division, which is, of course, America's Devin the Dream Haney. Now, a short while back when we were talking about the lightweight division, we talked about the elite fighters Teofimo Lopez, Vasyl Lomachenko, Devin Haney, Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. It's a stacked division. And George Kambosos Jr. wasn't even in the conversation. But in through a back door of a crash came a man that nobody really wanted or everybody overlooked. And that's George Kambosos Jr., the Cinderella story of note. And that's what makes boxing such a wonderful sport to watch. Somebody can go from obscurity to on top of a mountain in no time. And Kambosos Jr. caused a huge, massive upset by beating Teofimo Lopez and to take the lightweight belts from Teofimo Lopez. Devin Haney also has the WBC belt. But for all intents and purposes, on the basis on who beat the man, George Kambosos Jr. is the man. Now, is he going to be like the original Cinderella man, James J. Braddock? Is his moment going to be brief? And will Devin Haney take those titles from him? Or is the dream going to continue? Now, Kambosos Jr. has got one big thing going for him. He's in his home crowd. He's in Australia. Now, in Australia, we've seen some very dodgy decisions. We've had there was a bit of a controversial decision. Jeff Vaughn beating Manny Pacquiao, where I thought the fight was rather close. I think he had a little bit of luck there, having home ground advantage. And then, of course, into more obscure fights than that, our own here in South Africa, Frans Botha fought rugby player, part-time fighter Sonny Ball Williams there. And as he has had Williams in trouble finally in the last couple of rounds, the fight was suddenly cut from 12 rounds to 10. So a lot of weird things I have seen happening in boxing in Australia. So Devin Haney's people, of course, they are aware of that. And so the judges will be completely neutral. There's not an American judge and there's not an Aussie judge on the panel there. So hopefully the fighters will both get a fair shake. Now, George Kambosos Jr., he can do a bit of everything. He's a very awkward fighter to me, the way I look at him. He's got a herky-jerky movement, he's in and out, and he throws punches from strange angles and when you least expect it. He does a bit of everything, he does everything well, nothing too great, but he's awkward. He hits you when you don't think he's there. And I think against Teofimo Lopez, it was a passionate performance, it was a stirring performance by George Kambosos. He had me jumping up and down in my seat. He did one thing right there before the fight even started. He got into Teofimo Lopez's head. And I think along with that, Teofimo Lopez was riding on a high from that victory over Vasyl Lomachenko. And I think Lopez underestimated Kambosos as well. You can't really blame Teofimo Lopez for that. He was on such a high, and who was George Kambosos on that stage coming into the fight. But Kambosos knocked Lopez down in the first, took a knockdown himself. Just when it looked like Lopez was getting back in the fight, Kambosos dug deep and he pulled it out in the last rounds and he won a well-deserved decision, beating a bloody Teofimo Lopez. Now, the question we have to ask ourselves is, did that victory, as great as it was, flatter George Kambosos Jr. But how much was him fighting outside of his skin, having the best performance of his life? How much of it was Lopez underestimating him? And Lopez, I think, in many aspects, fought a bit of a stupid fight there. He went after George Kambosos from the get-go, got knocked down himself in the process. He tried too hard for the knockout, in my opinion. He should have just boxed a little more, used his jab, and instead he tried to fight with Lopez, and Lopez, against all expectations, out-toughed him, out-fought him. So how much of that was a perfect storm on the night when he fought Teofimo Lopez, and can he repeat this? Because if we look at Devin Haney, George Kambosos Jr. undefeated, 20-0, 10 knockouts. Not a big knockout puncher in my book. He can't depend on his power. I think he's got maybe a little more on his shots than Devin Haney has, so I'll give him a slight edge there. But if we look at Devin Haney, 27 and 0-15 knockouts. At the top level, he's had a nice little run as WBC champion after getting handed the title through this bizarre politics of a WBC when they made Lomachenko something called a franchise champion. But in his tenure as a holder of a green belt, he's impressed me. You know, he had to answer a gut check against the veteran Jorge Linares, won well enough, but Linares had him badly hurt at a stage. Devin Haney came through that against Jojo Diaz in his last fight. Also won quite impressively on points. Diaz came on late, also had him a bit wobbly, but Diaz stopped the assault. Haney, stopped the assault of Diaz by some sharp counter punching, and he handled it better when he handled it when he fought Linares. So there was a nice progress in Devin Haney, and Devin Haney is more your classical boxer, whereas Kambosos is more a boxer fighter. Haney is your classical boxer. He hasn't got a big shot. He's got enough mustard on his shots to keep you honest, to keep you from just walking in and make you think twice. But I don't think he's going to knock anybody out at the top level, at the elite level of a game. But he is a beautiful classical boxer. He's got a long reach and he uses the jab very well. Throws the right hand beautifully, goes to the body, a nice variety in his punches, moves well, and he's got the reach advantage over George Kambosos. Kambosos is slightly taller, but Devin Haney's got a reach advantage there of about 3 inches, and I think that could be a crucial difference in this fight. Now for Devin Haney, he's got to forget about the judges and trust that they're going to give him a fair shake, but he doesn't want to make this a close fight. He doesn't want to eke out 7 of the 12 rounds. That's probably not going to cut it in Australia, even though there's neutral judges. The crowd in the Marvel Stadium is going to be cheering everything that George Kambosos does, and that does have an influence on judges sometimes. And he's got to win clearly, and to do that is simple. He's got to fight his game, which is the long game. His long game from a distance, I think, is clearly better than George Kambosos' game, and he's got to keep it at long range, and he's got to keep that jab popping, go to a body. Do what he does, keep that punch variety going. Because George Kambosos cannot win a technical boxing match with Devin Haney. I can't see that. Now, if Kambosos is going to have to do a bit of what he did against Lopez, he's going to have to fight a bit and he's going to have to box a bit. Against Lopez, he could hardly miss him with a right hand, but also Kambosos ate a lot of right hands in return. So he's not the defensively the slickest guy. He more uses these awkward in jumps and out jumps to get out of the way, and he will have to go and pressure Devin Haney. He'll have to go after him, and Devin Haney, if we look at his weaknesses, okay, I've spoken about the lack of power, but I don't think he's got a great chin. I think he can be hurt. He's been wobbled in his last 2 fights, so not the greatest of chins. I won't say he's chinny because he didn't get knocked out with a shot there in one of those fights. He came through it, but not the greatest of chins. He hasn't got an anvil for a chin. So I think Teofimo Lopez had a better chin and more power than Devin Haney. But Devin Haney's got better speed and he's got better all-round boxing skills. So he's got to negate the jab of Devin Haney and he's got to go to the body. Because we've seen that Devin Haney tends to fade a little bit late in the fight. And that is Kambosos' chance. So Kambosos needs to be aggressive. He needs to negate the jab. He needs to find a way of getting under it, slap it off, and he needs to attack the body of Devin Haney to slow him down a little bit and not get countered too much in return. That's a key for George Kambosos. He's got to negate the jab of Devin Haney. If he can make Devin Haney's jab ineffective, he's got all for fight 1. Go to the body and hope to overwhelm Devin Haney late in the fight. I would be very surprised if Devin Haney manages to stop George Kambosos, because Kambosos went a full 12 with Teofimo Lopez, who we know can crack. So I don't think Devin Haney can win this fight on a knockout. He's going to have to clearly outbox George Kambosos Jr. to win the fight here. Now, can he do it in Melbourne? George Kambosos is going to have to fight outside of his skin once again. Great credit for Kambosos going straight to the top, taking out the top guy in the lightweight division and now going straight for one of the other young guns of the division. No easy fights for this guy, and you've got to admire the cojones on him. And if we look at Devin Haney, big credit to him for going over to Australia to go and take on this challenge. Not a lot of Americans travel like that these days. So I like both these guys. I'm a fan of both of them. You kind of want the Cinderella story of George Kambosos Jr. to continue. But, I'm fine with Devin Haney as well. I think he's a good boxer too, and they both seem like likable guys when you get past all the trash talking that you have before a fight. But I have to sort of, in my mind, what I can't get away from, if the Teofimo Lopez fight didn't happen, nobody would really have given George Kambosos much of a chance here. Now, did that fight flatten him? Was it a perfect storm, or is George Kambosos Jr.? It's funny to say it from the unified world lightweight champion. Is he actually an elite fighter, and did we not notice it in his way coming up? And it didn't look like that when he was coming up, squeaking past Selby and Bay and so on. So Devin Haney has been on the top level for a little bit longer than George Kambosos Jr., although Kambosos has got the big victory over Teofimo Lopez. But I just think Devin Haney has got some elite level boxing skills, whereas George Kambosos is an underrated, very good fighter that pushes himself with heart and fire over that edge. And I'm not sure if he can do it again. So I think Devin Haney, that jab is going to be a problem for George Kambosos Jr. He's going to battle with it, and he is going to get countered a couple of times while rushing in. I don't think Devin Haney is going to pitch a shutout, but we hope that won't be needed for the judges here. I think George Kambosos will come on in the later rounds, and he will give Devin Haney maybe also a wobbly moment or two, just like Jojo Diaz or Jorge Linares did. But I think Devin Haney is going to put enough rounds in the bank that by the 10th round, George Kambosos might need a knockout to win, and he's going to try hard. But I think Devin Haney is going to win this fight by decision. I think possibly a split decision. There might be an odd card from one judge giving it the other way that people won't understand, as we've sadly become accustomed to the judging these days. But I think it's a very intriguing fight, a good style matchup, and I'm interested to see if George Kambosos Jr. can pull it off again. I'm interested to see how Devin Haney handles the away crowd and the awkwardness of George Kambosos Jr. But I just think the form book has consistently more been on the side of Devin Haney than it's been on George Kambosos Jr. It's hard to go off one great victory. So I think Devin Haney, as I've said, he's going to become the new champion, and he's going to get away with a points decision there in Australia if everything is more or less fair. But let's see. That's why they fight the fights. Good news for South African fans. It's going to be on Super Sport. I think they're crossing over early Sunday morning from about 3:30. The main event should be on at about 4 or 5 a.m. depending how long the undercard takes. And I think it's going to be a very good fight to watch in a different part of the world than what we are accustomed to. So enjoy the fight. If you like this channel, please give a video a like and a subscribe, or let YouTube know that there's something going on here. And until I see you guys again, remember to keep those hands up.